I, 32F, haven't been intimate with my husband Caleb, 41M, for almost 5 years now. We've been married for 8 years and have 2 kids, Rosie, 6F, and Max, 4M. Looking back, I can see the red flags I missed, but at the time, everything seemed perfect. Caleb and I met at a charity gala for the local children's hospital. I was there representing the marketing firm I worked for, and he was a guest of one of the hospital board members. He looked dashing in his tuxedo, and when our eyes met across the room, it felt like something out of a movie. We spent the whole night talking, ignoring everyone else around us. I learned that Caleb came from old money, but he was determined to make his own way in the world. He'd started his own tech company and was passionate about innovation. I was impressed by his drive and ambition. We shared similar values, or so I thought, about building a life based on mutual respect and support. Our whirlwind romance was the stuff of fairy tales. Fancy dinners, weekend getaways, surprise gifts. Caleb pulled out all the stops. He made me feel like the most special woman in the world. When he proposed after just 6 months of dating, I didn't hesitate to say yes. The first year of marriage was blissful. We traveled, we entertained friends, we talked for hours about our dreams for the future. We agreed to wait a few years before having kids so we could enjoy being newlyweds and focus on our careers. Things started to change subtly after our first anniversary. Caleb began making comments about how it might be time to start a family. At first, it was just casual mentions, but soon it became a daily topic. He'd talk about how his parents were getting older and wanted grandchildren, how all our friends were having babies, how we weren't getting any younger. I tried to stick to our original plan, reminding him that we had agreed to wait. But Caleb became increasingly insistent. He started questioning my commitment to our marriage, saying things like, "If you really loved me, you'd want to have my children." The pressure was relentless, and eventually I gave in, thinking it would make him happy and bring us closer together. Pregnancy was tough on me. I had severe morning sickness that lasted all day, every day. Caleb was supportive at first, but as the months went on, he became impatient with my constant fatigue and nausea. He complained that I wasn't taking care of myself properly, that I wasn't glowing like pregnant women were supposed to. When Rosie was born, I fell in love instantly, but the birth was traumatic. 36 hours of labor ending in an emergency C-section. I struggled with postpartum depression, feeling overwhelmed and inadequate. Caleb seemed disappointed that I wasn't immediately bouncing back. He'd make comments about other new moms he saw at the park, wondering aloud why I couldn't be more like them. As I was struggling to adjust to motherhood, Caleb's controlling behavior began to escalate. He'd question me whenever I wanted to go out, even just to grab coffee with a friend. He insisted on knowing where I was at all times, calling repeatedly if I was even a few minutes late getting home. He said it was because he worried about me and the baby, but it felt suffocating. Despite the challenges, I wanted to return to work after my maternity leave. I loved my job and the sense of identity it gave me outside of being a wife and mother. Caleb fought me on this, saying that Rosie needed her mother at home. We argued about it for weeks before he finally relented, but not without making it clear that he thought I was being selfish. Just as things were starting to settle into a new normal, Caleb started pushing for another baby. I was hesitant, still feeling overwhelmed with one child, but Caleb was insistent. He said Rosie needed a sibling, that we needed to complete our family. The pressure started again, and once more, I gave in. Max's birth was easier physically, but emotionally, I was a wreck. I felt pulled in a million directions, trying to be a good mother to both children, a supportive wife, and a competent professional. Caleb's help was minimal. He'd watch the kids if I had to work late, but he made sure I knew what an imposition it was. It was around this time that our intimacy began to wane. Caleb would reject my advances, saying he was too tired or stressed from work. If I tried to talk about it, he'd turn it around on me, saying I wasn't attractive to him anymore because I hadn't lost the baby weight. I started to feel less and less like a woman, and more like a live-in nanny and housekeeper. When Max was about a year old, Caleb came home one day with a bombshell. He'd accepted a job offer in his hometown, clear across the country. He presented it as a done deal, saying we'd be moving in a month. When I protested, pointing out that I had a career and friends here too, he painted a rosy picture of how much better our life would be near his family. He talked about how his parents and siblings would help with the kids, giving us more time for each other. He promised we'd be able to reconnect, to find that spark again. And I, desperate to salvage our marriage and overwhelmed with the demands of working motherhood, agreed. The reality of the move was far from what Caleb had promised. His family, rather than being helpful, were intrusive and judgmental. His mother constantly criticized my parenting, my housekeeping, even the way I dressed. His father made no secret of his belief that women should be at home with the children, not working outside the house. Caleb, rather than standing up for me, seemed to agree with them more often than not. He started pressuring me to quit my job, saying the kids needed me at home. When I refused, he made it difficult for me to work, suddenly being too busy to watch the kids during my conference calls or important meetings. The promised help with childcare never materialized either. Caleb always had an excuse for why his family couldn't babysit. The kids were too young. His parents were too old. His siblings were too busy. I found myself more isolated than ever, stuck at home with 2 young children and no support system. It's been 3 years since we moved, and I feel like a prisoner in my own home. Caleb freaks out if I try to go anywhere by myself. He says it's not safe, that I don't know the area well enough. But how am I supposed to learn my way around if I'm never allowed to go out alone? The lack of intimacy is killing me inside. Caleb hasn't touched me in nearly 5 years. At first, I thought it was just the stress of having young kids and the move. But even as the children have gotten older and more independent, nothing's changed. I've tried talking to him about it, suggesting we try different things, but he always shuts down the conversation. I'm 32. I keep myself in shape, and I know I'm attractive. Men still notice me when we're out, which is rare. And it just makes the rejection at home hurt even more. I feel less like a woman every day. I'm at my wit's end. I make too much money to qualify for assistance, but not enough to afford decent childcare on my own. Caleb is the only person available to watch the kids while I work, so leaving isn't a simple option. Lately, I've been thinking about talking to other men online. Not for anything physical, just for some attention and to feel desired again. Is this wrong? Am I a terrible person for even considering this? I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm slowly dying inside, trapped in this loveless marriage with no intimacy, no freedom, and no support. How did I end up here? And more importantly, how do I get out? Update 1. It's been a month since my original post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments and messages. You helped me realize that what I was experiencing wasn't just a rough patch, but emotional abuse. The day after I posted, I decided to take a small step towards reclaiming my independence. I told Caleb I was going grocery shopping alone. As expected, he immediately started with his usual tactics, saying it wasn't safe, that I'd get lost, that the kids needed me at home. This time, instead of giving in, I stood my ground. I told him I'm an adult woman capable of buying groceries, on my own, and that I was going whether he liked it or not. He didn't take it well. He yelled, threatened to take away my car keys, and even tried to guilt-trip me by saying I was abandoning the kids. But I didn't back down. I walked out that door, shaking but determined. That grocery trip was eye-opening. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. I took my time, explored the store, and even stopped at a small cafe for a coffee afterward. It was such a simple thing, but it felt revolutionary. When I got home, Caleb was fuming. He had called me dozens of times, which I ignored, and was threatening to call the police to report me missing. I calmly unpacked the groceries and told him that from now on I would be going out on my own more often. He didn't like it, but seeing that his usual tactics weren't working, he retreated to sulk. Over the next few weeks, I started pushing back more. I joined a gym and started going 3 times a week. Caleb tried to stop me, saying we couldn't afford it. We could. And that I was being selfish, taking time away from the family. I stood firm, telling him that taking care of my health was important for me and for the kids. I also reconnected with old friends online. One of them, Sarah, lived just an hour away. We made plans to meet for lunch, and when I told Caleb, he hit the roof. He accused me of cheating, saying there was no way I was really meeting a female friend. I invited him to come along and meet Sarah, but he refused, saying he had to stay home with the kids. I went anyway, and it was wonderful to have a connection to my old life again. The gym became my sanctuary. For those few hours a week, I felt like myself again. Not just a wife or a mother, but me. I started to remember the woman I used to be. The one with dreams and ambitions beyond the 4 walls of our house. It was at the gym that I met Tom. He was friendly and clearly interested, and for a moment I felt that spark I'd been missing for so long. We talked for a while about our workout routines and our jobs. Before he left, he gave me his number, saying we should grab a coffee sometime. I didn't call him, but holding that piece of paper with his number on it made me realize something. I have options. I don't have to stay in this loveless, controlling marriage. That night, I sat Caleb down and told him I wanted a divorce. I expected him to yell or try to manipulate me, but instead, he broke down crying. He admitted that he knew he'd been controlling and that he had pushed me away. He begged for another chance, promising to change and to go to counseling. Part of me wanted to give in, to believe him. But a stronger part remembered all the years of control and neglect. I thought about all the times he'd made me feel small, all the times he'd dismissed my feelings or belittled my achievements. I thought about how he'd isolated me from my friends and family, how he'd tried to make me completely dependent on him. I told him that while I appreciated his willingness to change, it was too late. Our marriage was over. He didn't take it well, alternating between begging me to reconsider and angrily accusing me of throwing away our family. The next day, I contacted a lawyer. She helped me understand my rights and what to expect from the divorce process. It was overwhelming, but also empowering to take this step towards freedom. I'm scared about the future, how I'll manage as a single mom, how the kids will cope. But for the first time in years, I also feel hopeful. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but it has to be better than the prison I've been living in. Thank you all again for your support. I'll update again when there's more news. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and things have been intense. The divorce process is underway, and it's bringing out sides of Caleb I never knew existed. At first, he seemed to accept that our marriage was over. He moved into the guest room, and we tried to keep things civil for the kids. But as soon as I served him with divorce papers, he changed completely. He's now contesting everything. Custody, asset division even. My right to stay in the house. His lawyer sent a letter claiming that I'm an unfit mother because I abandoned my family to go to the gym and meet other men. It's ridiculous, but it's still terrifying to have these accusations thrown at me. Caleb's family has also shown their true colors. His mother called me, screaming about how I was destroying their family. She threatened to testify that she's seen me neglect the kids, which is a complete lie. His sister, who I thought was my friend, is now telling people that she always knew I was selfish and that Caleb deserves better. The kids are struggling with all of this. Rosie overheard Caleb on the phone with his lawyer and asked me if I was a bad mommy. It broke my heart. I've tried to shield them from the conflict as much as possible, but it's not easy. Despite all this, I'm staying strong. I found an amazing lawyer who specializes in high-conflict divorces. She's been a godsend, helping me navigate the legal system and giving me the confidence to stand up for myself. I've also started seeing a therapist to work through all the emotions I've been suppressing for years. It's hard and often painful, but I can feel myself getting stronger with each session. We've been exploring my childhood and how it might have led me to accept Caleb's controlling behavior for so long. I grew up in a household where my father was very dominant and my mother was submissive. I never saw them argue or disagree. My mother always deferred to my father's wishes. I realized in therapy that I had internalized this dynamic, believing that a good wife should always put her husband's needs first. It's been eye-opening to recognize this pattern and start to break free from it. The guy from the gym, Tom, has become a good friend. We're not dating. I'm nowhere near ready for that. But it's nice to have someone to talk to who isn't involved in all the drama. He's been really supportive and reminds me that I deserve to be happy. Tom's friendship has been a stark contrast to my relationship with Caleb. He listens when I talk, shows genuine interest in my thoughts and feelings, and respects my boundaries. It's helped me see how a healthy relationship should look, even if it's just a friendship for now. Work has been my sanctuary through all of this. I've thrown myself into my job, and it's paying off. I got a promotion last week, which means I'll be in a better financial position once the divorce is finalized. My boss has been understanding about my situation, allowing me some flexibility with my hours to accommodate lawyer meetings and therapy sessions. The promotion came with an unexpected challenge, though. Caleb found out about it and immediately filed a motion to increase his potential alimony, claiming that my sudden increase in income should be considered in the divorce settlement. My lawyer assures me we can fight this, but it's just one more stress to deal with. I'm still taking it one day at a time. Some days are really tough, especially when Caleb is being particularly vindictive or when I see how confused and upset the kids are. But I remind myself why I'm doing this. For my freedom, my happiness, and to show my children what a healthy, self-respecting woman looks like. Last week, I had a moment that made all the struggle feel worth it. I took the kids to the park, something I used to do only when Caleb allowed it. Rosie was playing on the swings when she called out, "Look, Mommy, I'm flying." The joy in her voice, the freedom in her laugh, it reminded me of why I'm fighting so hard. I want my children to grow up feeling that sense of freedom and joy, not constrained by fear and control. I don't know what the future holds, but I know it's brighter than the life I was living before. There are still many hurdles to overcome. Finalizing the divorce, figuring out custody arrangements, rebuilding my life as a single mom. But for the first time in years, I feel like I'm facing these challenges on my own terms, not as Caleb's subordinate. Thank you all for your continued support. It means more than you know. I'll keep you updated as things progress.